Welcome, everybody. My name is Karen McMullen. I'm features programmer at Doc NYC Film Festival. We are here today with the director of Finding Yingying and the producers as well. I would like to welcome Jenny Shi, director, Diane Quon, producer, and Brent Huffman, producer. Hi, guys.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Thanks for sharing
Thank
your
you.
film. Thanks for sharing your film with Doc NYC. So Jenny, I'm really pleased to see you here. I've been running into you. Our paths have been crossing as you've been making this film, from getting funding, and then you were at the TFI Institute at Tribeca, and I'm very proud of you for getting your film done. It's an excellent piece. Can you talk to us a little bit about such a complex case, just some of the challenges you faced making the film? And Diane and Brent, you can jump in as well.
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest challenge of making this film, I would say like I have two challenges. One is really, as a first-time filmmaker, I've never covered a case like this. You must be very sensitive when covering a case like this. And for me, I really put a lot of energies and efforts in maintain the relationship with the family and also be careful about all the ethical dilemmas and the potential problems I would probably made over the 3 years. So every time, we need to decide, I'm the cinematographer, and we have Shilin Sun, who's the co-producer and also the cinematographer. We need to decide, every day under what circumstances we can turn on the camera and keep filming. And also we want to make sure the family, they are comfortable with us, having the camera there. And we would have, different conversations before the shoot and after the shoot to make sure they convey, their true feelings. Sometimes I would say like the family, they were just too nice and they were afraid to say no and to upset people. So we want to make sure we are on the same page. And I think in the past 3 years, we lost access at some point. But we explain to the family and also make sure, what is the most important at that time. For example, during the trial, they feel like maybe just to be safe, stop filming during this time period. And we were okay with that. And I think another challenge is really about how to structure the story. Because for me, we really want to make a film about Yingying and her family. That's the overall goal, and it won't be changed. But meanwhile, we are covering a case. There are a lot of crime involved. So for us, how we are going to, basically balance the story, how much crime we want to tell, and how much Ying's story and her family story we want to tell. So I think in the editing, in post-production, we had different versions of the cut. Some have much more crimes, but later on, we just feel like we don't need to talk too much about the crime. One, we don't want to glorify, the perpetrator. Second, at the end of the day, again, this is a film about Ying and her family. As long as we provide basic information about the crime and the audience can understand what actually happened, that's enough. So I would say like these two are my biggest challenges.
I think for me,
I think Karen, your audio cut out.
I was muted.
I think for me, one of the challenges was like how to support Jenny and Shilin, the co-producer, when they especially were filming or at least attending every day the trial. Sometimes they would call and you could see just how hard it was there. And Brent and I talked about it too, like how do we help them, especially when they lost access for a little while, when the parents said they just don't want to be filmed anymore. Is how do we keep them motivated, Jenny and Shilin, not to be discouraged, but that things happen for a reason and it will work out. But during the moment, it's really a challenge. And then as the other thing that Jenny said, finding the balance, not only in terms of how much crime versus just focusing on Yingying and her story. Even when we would talk to buyers or present the film to people either wanted to see it as a true crime film or as a very social justice film. And it's really a film about Yingying. So it was hard. It was the challenge of how to get people to understand what the movie was about.
Yeah, and I would say some of the same things. I mean, it's so important that the film is a celebration of Yingying's life and her legacy, and her really just incredible family that would, do anything to find her, to bring her back, and to make it, a relatable story for, American audiences. So to talk about the crime, but to really make it one that celebrated her life, and that we never imagined that the film would come out sort of now, where there's a trade war between the U.S. and China, and stereotypes are so negative. There are these really kind of harmful, awful things said about Chinese Americans. My wife is Chinese, my kids are half Chinese, so it's really important too that the film, humanizes the subjects, celebrates, humanizes them, and tries to break those harmful stereotypes.
Well, and I think that's probably for me one of the biggest strengths of the film is that was excellent. That was done. It was very well done. The access to Yingying's interior life, the excerpts from her diary, really just made you know her. And I think you struck an excellent balance in not glorifying the horror of the crime. You don't need that much of that. A little of it, and you got it, and then back into the family. And congratulations on getting the access you had to the family, just the vulnerability and intimacy that they let you have access to is really commendable. So Jenny, this is your first film, which is wonderful. You were a journalism student. Can you talk about your shift from journalism into filmmaking?
So when I first started filming, I was in Brent class. So he was my professor at Northwestern University, and I was in his documentary journalism class. I think at that time, I didn't really think about, being a documentary filmmaker as my career, as what I'm gonna do, in future. For me, it's really, focusing on stories. And I would say, like, when I first started, I was still in a student mindset, and also like a reporter mindset. So get access, to tell the story, but I didn't really have a big picture as a filmmaker who wanted to make a feature-length film. All the story I've done at school, I think the longest like 5 minutes. And in Brent class, I created a 25 minutes short documentary. So it was difficult, really. But later on, Brent introduced me to Quon, which is a documentary production company in Chicago, and really supporting emerging filmmakers and other filmmakers in Midwest. So I got into their Diverse Voices in Documentary program, which is a great fellowship, in 2018. And that's where I learned how to write proposals, edit demos, and how to prepare your pitch and pitch it to potential investors and distributors. So for me, during that period of time, I think 10 months, I really learned a lot of skills about being a documentary filmmaker in the industry. So for me, the journalistic skills I learned from school really play a key role, in telling the story and getting access, and also build a trust between the family. But all the industrial knowledge I learned from the fellowship basically give me the skill to bring the story and basically to connect to more people and bring the story to another stage. And I was lucky enough to get to know Diane through Quon. And then we came together as a team. I have Brent, Diane, and also Shilin, who's also like just a filming, during the past 2 years. So that's just how we get together. And I feel like I can still call myself a journalist / documentary filmmaker. So yeah, I think that's good.
So Diane, can you talk about your involvement in the project a little bit?
Yeah, as Jenny mentioned, she was part of the DVID program at Quon Films, which has been around for 50 years, making social justice films. And DVID, Diverse Voices, they have rough cut screenings to show like some of it does. Well, Quon has rough cut screenings, and DVID fellows can show their films, and that's how I actually met Bing Liu, my for Minding the Gap and how we came together. I went to a rough cut screening that Bing had, and I really loved his story, and I really appreciated him as a filmmaker. So it was 2 years later that I think Brent or Jenny invited me to the rough cut screening, and I just was really impressed with the story and Jenny. And maybe a couple months later, we decided to all work together.
Let's talk a little bit more about the film and the family and the case. In the film, the father really blames himself heartbreakingly for sending his daughter to America. Um, Now that the Chinese economy is getting better, well, we're talking about this as if pandemic doesn't exist, but is there still this big drive to send Chinese students to come to America? Since, I mean, the Chinese economy is doing so much better. Is that still a thing?
Yeah, I think you know, if you don't consider the political what's going on political wise, it's a trend. You know, people are sending more parents, they are sending their children to the US. And some people, I mean, some students, they actually they work for a while, like in China, but they just decided to pursue another degree in the US, and that's very common. Because for us, like, the reason why I decided to come to America to study journalism, because I feel like the environment in China, especially the academic environment in China, maybe it's not good enough for what I wanted to achieve. So that's the reason I wanted to come here. But recently there's a slight decline because of the trade war, and also basically the political tension, you know, between the US and China. But I know, like, some of my friends, they're still trying to taking class. Physically, they're in China, but they are taking online class in the US right now because of COVID happened, so they can't come here. So, you know, you can see people's desire to study in the US.
Did the case have any impact? Was it widely publicized in China?
It was huge. It was huge in China. So basically, you know, any updates on the case can be a trending topic in China in the past 3 years. When Yingying first went missing, it was huge because Yingying, she graduated from the top university in China. And many, like, Chinese, they feel like our top students, you know, going to the US, and they were supposed to get great education and be protected. And also, you know, we pay tuition. But what happened is, you know, she disappeared and eventually she lost her life. For a lot of Chinese, I mean, who are in China, they feel like it's sort of like injustice. But after you watch the film, you could understand, you know, partly, you know, these kind of, you know, opinion are caused by the cultural differences and also language barriers. And this is something I feel like, you know, the US university, they could address in future, because there are a large population of international students, not only Chinese, but international students from all over the country. And not only they contribute, you know, to the economy, to the US, but also their existence basically help the university to create a diverse environment for American students. So basically it's mutual effects, mutual benefits. So, you know, hopefully after we show the film, it can create some impact, especially among US universities, and to see, you know, what kind of policy and services could provide for international students and to create a better environment on campus.
Mm-hmm. Did Christensen ever apologize to the family?
So he had a chance to say something at the end of the trial after the verdict, but I can't, you know, recall exactly. He either didn't say anything or no. So basically he didn't apologize to family.
It's heartbreaking. And how are the efforts going to find her body?
So based on our last interview with the law enforcement, so basically if they wanted to, you know, continue the search, they need to go through a lot of procedures. So going up to ask the government, things like that. And it's not a decision from one department. It's gonna be a decision from several departments, because, you know, the possible whereabouts is actually in a landfill, a huge landfill. And I didn't really talk to the law enforcement later, but I do talk to Ying's boyfriend and the family to see if there's any updates on their end. What I heard from them is basically it's almost impossible to continue the search. So for them, it's just very devastating because they probably won't have Ying back forever. And we hope, like after the audience watch the film, Ying can be memorized, in a different way. And we actually show the film to the family before any public screenings to want to make sure, they're okay with what's included in the film.
Mhm.
Even though it was very difficult for them to watch the film, it was a sad story, but they were glad that we made the film because there's a potential that people, if they get a chance to watch the film, they can get to know Yingying. Just like me, I feel like I know Yingying so much just throughout the 3 years making the film.
Yeah, and I think the audience does too. It's a very intimate. It's a heartbreaking film.
Mhm.
And I love the line, ordinary, she's extraordinary in her ordinariness. I think that's very beautiful. And have you shown the film in China, and do you have plans to do so?
We do have the plan, and we applied for festivals. So hopefully we can show the film in China later this year or sometime next year. But because, like the family, all the main subjects, they are in China right now. And we want to make sure, the screening in China won't have any negative impact on them. So we talked to, I actually last week, I just talked to Ying's father and told him that there's a potential that the film gonna show in China very soon, and to ask if he has any concern. He's basically, he wants more people to watch the film, to hear their stories. So hopefully, right now we have a lot of festivals in the US. I'm hoping there will be more, more people, wanted to see the film in China, and maybe, someone in China wanted to help the family directly. So that would be great.
That would be great. That would be really wonderful. These Q&As go by so quickly. I could talk to you more, but I cannot. We have to wrap it up. Thank you once again for sharing your wonderful film, Brent and Diane and Jenny. It's a moving piece, and you did great honor to Yingying. So thank you for sharing. Good luck with your film, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you,
Thank
Karen.
you.
Thank you
Thank
so much,
you.
Karen.
Thank you.